this works is as follows. If you can imagine, under normal circumstances, when we speak about a doorway, we assume that a doorway is in the middle of a wall. Although we'll talk about today when a doorway is at the corners of a wall. In this case, the entranceway essentially is at one of the corners. So if you can imagine, if you have, let's say, a room that you enter into, and you go ahead and you take out the corner of that room, or that home, and you put the entranceway in the corner, like that. So it's not, the door is not sitting in the middle of a wall, one of the sides, but rather the entranceway ultimately again is at the corner. So what's the halacha? You have to put a mezuzah there. But 1 second, there are no side posts. There are no side posts. Says yes, there are side posts. Rashi says Adi Hari Kilomar Elu Rashek Salam Hinapsimin. Ultimately, again, the sides of the wall which exist are considered to be the side posts for the door. Rapapa Ikla Lebe Mar Shmuel. So Rapapa went to the house of Mar Shmuel. Chazahu Pischa to Lo Havale Ela Patsim Echad Smala Va'avida Le Mezuzah. So he saw that Mar Shmuel had a doorway, I will say, which was up against towards the end of one of the walls, so that there were no side posts on the right side. There were only side posts on the left side. Yet, va'avida le mezuzah. Yet Mar Shmuel made a mezuzah for that doorway. Amalei kiman. So he says, in accordance with whose opinion are you constructing the mezuzah? Rabbi Meir, ultimately, again like Rabbi Meir, to which the Gemara says, Rabbi Meir miyamin. When did Rabbi Meir say that you need a mezuzah? That's only when there is what? When there is ptsimi, when there's a doorpost on the right side, small mi amar. Did Rabbi Meir say that when the only real doorpost that exists is on the left side, that you would also be chayv to make a mezuzah? So the Gemara says, Mahi, which opinion of Rabbi Meir are we referring to over here? The Sanya, the Gemara says, Beischa. So remember again, the pasuk says, Beisecha. Uksavtem al mezuzos Beisecha. So remember, it's a little bit of a play on words. Bi ascha min hayamin. Did I both say when ultimately again are you chayv in mezuzah? When there is an entryway on the right side. You say the entrance has to be on the right side, but maybe it's on the left side as well. We'll see what this means in just a moment. Therefore, the pasuk says beisecha, your home. My Talmud. So we'll say again, what is the drasha? Amarabba derech bi ascha min hayamin. The way a person comes in, ultimately again, is through the right. When a person walks, he often uproots his right foot first. So that when you walk into your home, you're going to be walking in, the Gemara assumes, with your right foot first. Therefore, the right has dominance when it comes to mezuzah. Rav Shmuel bar Acha kamed Rapav Mishmei de Rava bar Ula Amar Mehacha. He says it from here. Vayikach Yehoyada Kohen Aron Echad. Yehoyada Kohen, who was the Kohen Gadol, took a box in Aron Echad. Vayikov Chor Bidalto. He made a hole in the opening of the box. Vayitin also Eitzel HaMizbeach Miyamin. And he put the box, which was the collection box actually, by the right of the Mizbeach. Eitzel HaMizbeach on the right side of the Mizbeach. Bevo Ish Beis Hashem. This way, when anyone would come into the house of Hashem, that's how they would put all of the donations. So as I said, the point that they're making over here is that when entering into an area, so people often gravitate towards the right. That's why, again, Chazal, when darshaning where to place the mezuzah, made a play on words. Beisecha, you have to place the mezuzah in your home, but where in your home? Bi ascha, in the way ultimately again that you enter. Which way do we assume entry normally occurs? With a dominance on the right. So the Gemara says, my Rabbi Meir, but what is the sheet of Rabbi Meir that we discussed before? The Sanyo, Bayis she'ino ela patzim echad. What's actually interesting? What happens if a home only has one doorpost? And I will say, now, what the Gemara understands by this is as follows. This is best illustrated in a home, or in a room for that matter, where the doorway is not in the center of a wall, but rather the doorway is at a corner. If the doorway is at a corner, essentially, the halacha says we view it as if there's one doorpost. So, for example, if you're looking at a home and the entranceway is on the rightmost side of the entry wall, so we'll say the right side doesn't really have a doorpost. the doorpost is really on the left side. So the Gemara says, Meir decided a home that has only one side post. Rabbi Meir mechayiv b'mezuzah. Rabbi Meir says that you're still chayiv in a mezuzah. The Chum poacher. The Chum say that you're potter. Both say first wide line, Lamed Daled Amud Aleph. My time in the Rabbanon. What's the reason why the Rabbanon go ahead and patter and exempt a home which only has one side? I'm sorry. What's the reason for the Chachamim who say that ultimately, again, such a home is pater? To which the Gemara says mezuzos ksiv, because also the pasuk says mezuzos, which means what? Doorposts, plural. So in order to be chayv in mezuzah, there has to be two significant doorposts. My time with Rabbi Meir. What's Rabbi Meir's logic? The Sanya mezuzos shamea ani miyot mezuzos shtayim. Rabbi Meir is like this. I would have thought that mezuzos, right, doorposts plural, is a minimum of two doorposts. Two doorposts. Kishu omer mezuzos b'parsha shniya. But yet then it repeats the word mezuzos, right, in the second parsha of mezuzah. Shein tamid lomar, shein tamid lomar, shein tamid lomar, and it was unnecessary to say this. You didn't have to say mezuzos twice. Have a riboy achariboy. We'll say this is what's an exegetical principle known as riboy achariboy. Riboy achariboy means that the Torah will sometimes go ahead and say two inclusive phrases. Now, I don't need both of those inclusive phrases. Why does it make it riboy achar riboy? Ve'in riboy achar riboy elamait. And ultimately, you're supposed to say the way exegetically it works is that you have a riboy achar riboy, an inclusive phrase after an inclusive phrase, actually comes to exclude or to limit something. Miyato hakosof lemezuzah achos. Div Rabbi Shmuel. So we'll say therefore the Torah is coming to say what? The Torah is coming to teach me a riboy achar riboy, mezuzos achar mezuzos, both plural, teaches me that what? Amazingly enough, I only need one doorpost in order for the doorway to be chayiv for mezuzah. These are the words of Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva says, Eno tzarich. Rabbi Kiva says it's not necessary. Why? Kishu omer al hamashkov va'al shtei hamezuzos. The pasuk says that you shall place it. Well, this is actually talking about the blood of the Karban Pesach. But the Gemara Darshans over here, you're supposed to place it on the mashkov. The mashkov is the lintel, right? That is the part of the doorway that extends across the top. Va'al shtei hamezuzos, and on the two doorposts. She'ein tamid lomar shtei. Now, interestingly enough, the Torah doesn't have to say that you should place the blood on the two doorposts. Why not? Because mezuzos by itself, in an unqualified way, would have automatically meant what? Two. Because mezuzah is singular, mezuzos is plural, doorposts. The basic definition of mezuzos plural is what? Two doorposts. Therefore, you don't need to say shtei mezuzos. Why do you say shtei mezuzos? Matam lo shtei zeh bonaav. But say this creates a paradigm. What's the paradigm? Kol makom shneimar mezuzos eino ela achos ach yifrat lacha kasav shaim. To teach me there, both say that actually mezuzos, when written in the Torah, means one, unless of course when, or unless of course if the Torah says two. So we'll say the fact that the Torah needs to say shtei mezuzos tells me that only when it says shtei do we assume that mezuzos, even though it's written in a plural form, means two. Otherwise, it means one. Therefore, by mezuzah, when it says uksaftem al mezuzos beisecha, the Gemara is suggesting even if there's only one formal doorpost, the mezuzah will, the doorway will still require a mezuzah. Tan Rabbana. So we'll say so again. The Gemara goes like this. So, interestingly enough, we begin to see a really very interesting machlokes, ultimately again regarding whether or not you need two formal doorposts. So we'll say, and the way we paskin is, so the halacha is you don't need two formal doorposts. You need two actual. You need a tzuras pesach. You need a doorway. But even if one of those doorways is flush against the side of the room, or even if one of those doorposts is flush against the side of the room or flush against the side of a home, halacha l'maisa still requires a mezuzah, even though it doesn't have what the Gemara calls a more formal doorpost, which is thicker than just the simple threshold of the door. You'll still require a mezuzah. Ten Rabbanan uksavtam. Supposed to say the pasuk says you shall write it. Yachol yichtavena al ha'avonim. Supposed to, it's actually very interesting. The pasuk says uksavtem al mezuzos beisecha visharecha. You shall write it on the doorpost. So the Gemara says, I might have thought that maybe that should be understood literally. Yachol yichtavena al ha'avonim. I might have thought that maybe I have to write the mezuzah actually on the stones of my doorway. Or maybe it's a good havim, Maybe except the mezuzah, I literally have to write the parasha, ultimately again on the actual structure. To which the Gemara says, Ne'emar kan ksiva v'ne'emar lahalon ksiva. It says over here, writing, and it says over there, writing. I will say, now what's the over here is mezuzah. What's the over there? So the pasuk is the kasav law sefer krisos by get, by divorce document. Ma lahalon idea sefer, just like a get is written on a piece of parchment. Afkan al ha-sefer. So too again, a mezuzah is written on a piece of parchment as well, not directly on the stones. So the Gemara says, Afkan al-sefer. Okay, lechel derechzu. Or perhaps you want to make the drush a little bit differently. Ne'emar kan ksiva v'ne'emar lahalon ksiva. Let's listen to this. It says writing over here by mezuzah, and it says writing over there. Now, what's the over there? I will say uksafta al ha'avonim. So we'll say, interestingly enough, this is Torah when Klal Yisrael enters into Eretz Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu gives them the obligation to write the Torah on stones, and those stones are to be positioned in Gilgal immediately again upon entering into Eretz Yisrael. So we'll say there the writing was done directly on the stones. So just like Ksafta by Moshe Rabbeinu means you have to write it on the stones, maybe by mezuzah it means you have to write it on the stones of the doorway as well. Afkan al-avonim. To which the Gemara says, Nira limi dome. So we'll say, so now what we're stuck with over here, not stuck with, but the intriguing issue is like this. Do we compare the writing of the mezuzah to the writing of a get? Just as a get ultimately again is done on a piece of parchment, so too mezuzah is done on a piece of parchment? Or do we compare the writing of the mezuzah to the writing of the stones that were written by Klal Yisrael upon entering into Eretz Yisrael? Just like those were written on the stones, so too again mezuzah is written on the stones, the entranceway of the doorway. That's the fundamental shayla. To which the Gemara says, I'll tell you. The Gemara says, Ma la la fine. Nira lemi dome. So let's see, to which is mezuzah more comparable? Donin ksiva hanohages ledoros, miksiva hanohages ledoros, ve'im donin ksiva hanohages ledoros, miksiva she'enohages ledoros. Well, so here's the difference. Mezuzah is an eternal writing. So we want to compare mezuzah to something else which is an eternal writing. The stones that Klal Yisrael wrote when they came into Eretz Yisrael was a one-time event. Get is not a one-time event. Therefore, when comparing the ksiva of mezuzah to something, just like mezuzah is an ongoing concept, we want to compare it to another type of writing which is ongoing. Therefore, we choose to compare it to get and not to compare it to the stones upon which Klal Yisrael wrote the Torah when they entered into Eretz Yisrael. K'mo shene'emar lahalon, v'yomer lehen baruch mipi v'yikarei elayis advarim ha'ila, v'ani kosev al hasefer b'diyo. So we'll say over here, Baruch, we spoke about him last week, who was described the sofer of Yirmiyahu Hanavi. So he says, ultimately, Yirmiyahu Hanavi dictates things to me, v'ani kosev, and I write it, al hasefer ubidiyo. So we'll say this is an example from Navi, that when you speak about ksiva, when you speak about writing, what is writing done with? Writing is done on a piece of parchment with ink. So too mezuzah is not written on the stones of the home directly, rather it's written on parchment with ink. So the Gemara says as follows: Amar le Rav Achaber Rav Ashi, Rachmana Amar al mezuzos, va'at omeres neilev ksiva. So I don't understand. So Rav said Rav Achaber Rav says Rav Ashi, but still, you're not. See, he's taking a more literal interpretation of the pasuk. The pasuk says al mezuzos. I mean, the pasuk, you don't think about it this way because we're used to fulfilling the mitzvah of mezuzah, we fulfill it. But if you think about it, the pasuk itself does seem to be pretty explicit, namely that you should write the mezuzah on the actual walls of the home. So why are you choosing to focus on ksiva and not al mezuzos? Amar Kra, because the pasuk says uksav tam, ksiva tama, v'hadra al mezuzos. Because we'll say the pasuk chooses to use. Pasuk could have just said v'kasav al mezuzos beisecha. It says uksav tam. What does uksav tama mean? Ksiva tama. What's ksiva tama? A complete or self-contained writing, which the Gemara which Gemara understands to mean the type of writing that's done with ink on a piece of parchment. So first it says ukisav tam, and then only afterwards does he use lashon of ala mezuzos. If you look at Rashi, it's the last of the short lines in Rashi. Uksiva tama Ve'in ksiva tama ala itzim va'avanim ala ala sefer. A complete writing is only one done on a piece of parchment with ink, not done on wood or on stones. If that's the case, so then Abba say, all I need is uksavtam. Why do I need the gzeir shava ultimately again to get? To which the Gemara says, Ilav gzeir shava havamina lichtevea avna velikba'a asefa. Well, this is actually very interesting, because without the gzeir shava of ksiva, that just like get is written on a piece of parchment with ink, so too mezuzah is written on a piece of parchment with ink. I would have thought, how do you write a mezuzah? You write it on a stone, but then what do you do with that stone? You affix it to the doorway. So in other words, ksiva tama teaches me that halacha l'maisa I don't write directly on the doorway, but I would have still thought that where do you write? On a stone, and affix the stone to the doorway. Therefore, the pasuk says ukisaf tam to teach me what gezer shava ksiva from mezuzah to get. Just as get is written on a piece of parchment with ink, so too mezuzah is written on a piece of parchment with ink. Good. So the Gemara goes weiter. Arba parashos shebetfilin ma'akvo zu azu. Vafilu kasav echem maknas. And now we're transitioning from mezuzah to tefillin. So when it came to tefillin, what did the Torah say? There are 4 sections of the Torah that are written in tefillin. We're actually going to discuss them today. They are ma'akvos zu azu. We'll say if you're missing any one of them, ultimately again, I've compromised the mitzvah of tefillin. Not only that, but even if the tefillin are missing one letter, the tefillin become a puzzle. So Gemara says, Pshita, isn't that obvious? Amrav Yud Amrav, lo nitzracha ala kotzel shal yud. So I'll say this goes back to what we discussed, I think it was already last week, or maybe last Shabbos, about the Kotz Shel Rabbeinu Tam. Right? Ultimately, again, the little shmishik that extends above the yud, Machlokes Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, whether or not the absence of that coat, the absence of that little piece that extends upwards. So the Gemara says, in the tefillin shal yad, even if you're missing the little piece that extends up from the yud, the tefillin will be possible. I have a hanami pshita. Didn't we learn that already? But there's another issue. To teach me the halakha of Rabbi Yehuda and Rav. Rabbi Yehuda and Rav said, any letter that is not surrounded by parchment on all sides is puzzle. Which also says another way of saying that what? If any 2 letters are what? Touching each other, ultimately again that will invalidate the tefillin. So number 1, we've learned 2 halachos. If it's missing the little shmishik that comes up from the top of the yud, tefillin are puzzle. If any 2 letters are touching each other, tefillin are puzzle. Amid Beis, Tan Rabbanan. Litotafos, Hurricane Dalad Derivishos. So let's listen to this. Torah writes the word totafos 3 times. If you'll notice, the first 2 times are written without a vav, chaser. The second time is written with a vav. The Gemara understands that every time it's written without a vav, it represents 1. Totafos means a sign, right? It means 1. When it's written with a vav, it means 2, which effectively means that we have 4 mentionings of the word totafos. What is that a remes? To Hare Kandala, that's 4. What is 4 a scriptural allusion to? To the 4 parshios, ultimately again, that go into the tefillin. 4 parshas that go into the tefillin, ultimately again are hinted to in the 4 totafos. Rabbi Akiva Omer Ino Tzarech. Rabbi Akiva says you don't even need that drasha. Why not? Tat bekaspi shtayim, pat ba'afriki shtayim. Rabbi Akiva actually understands what was said. The word totafos is not of Hebraic origin. It's not a Hebrew word. He says totafos actually is a contraction of 2 foreign words, tat and pas. Tat in the Kaspi language means 2. Pat in the Afriki language means 2. 2 and 2 is 4. Hence the scriptural allusion to the idea that tefillin has 4 parshios. Tan Rabbanan, Yochol yichtavim al dalet oros v'yanichem medalet batim. So I might have thought Yochol yichtavim al dalet oros v'yanichem medalet batim b'dalet oros. So also listen to this. So I would have thought that halacha l'maisa, I could write the 4 parshios on four pieces of parchment and insert them ultimately again into the batim, and keep the parchments attached. Then I will say, now what's happening over here is as follows. What's happening, well, actually, let's say this differently. So I might have thought that ultimately, again, I could go ahead and write the 4 parshios on one piece of parchment. And look at Rashi for just a moment. B'daled batim ba'or echad. No, I'm sorry. Daled oros, excuse me. The case over here is, look at Rashi. Daled chatichos klaf, v'anichena b'daled batim shal daled chatichos klaf. I might have thought, I will say, that I would go in and write the 4 parshios. Now this is talking about over here the shel rosh, which is made of 4 different compartments. I might have thought that the shel rosh should be made of 4 different pieces of parchment as well, to which the Gemara says, Tamad lomar ula zikaron bein einecha. Zikaron echad amarti lecha for those beis v'gimel zikronos. Therefore, also the pasuk says, it shall be as a remembrance between your eyes. Remembrance is singular. To teach you what? That the shel rosh has to be made from one piece of leather and not from multiple pieces of leather. So I'll say, even though the shel rosh has 4 different compartments, those 4 compartments are fashioned from one piece of leather and cannot be fashioned from multiple pieces of leather. Okay, so we'll say, so how do I do this? So the Gemara says, Kosvan adalat oros, umanichan bedalat batim or echad. The parshios themselves are written on 4 different pieces of parchment, 4 separate pieces of parchment, but are put into a bias which is fashioned into 4 different compartments, but what? From one piece of leather. From one piece of leather. So the Gemara says, if we mean kasvan ba'or echad, venichan b'dalid batim yatsa. What's actually interesting? If you wrote the 4 parshios on one piece of cloth, and you went ahead and you put it in 4 different compartments, you're yotze. V'tzarach shei revach benein diri Rebbe. You're supposed to listen to this. So what it's saying over here is as follows. It's actually an interesting case. If you were to take, so the shel rosh we've now established as 4 different compartments made from one piece of leather. What if you did the following? You wrote the 4 parshios of Shema. We're going to discuss what the 4 parshios are. Now what you did was you wrote it on one piece of cloth. You left space between each of the parshios. What do? You cut in between each of the parshios, but they're all connected by a piece of cloth on the bottom. So what you do is you take the piece of cloth on the bottom, you slide each of the parshios into their respective section, but technically speaking, they are all connected at the bottom. So the Gemara suggests that ultimately, again, you're yotze like that. Or even though they're connected at the bottom, ultimately, again, they are still considered to be separate parshios because they're each in their own compartment. However, v'tzarach sheyehei revach beinehem. But ultimately, again, it is important halacha l'maisa that there be a space in between the 4 compartments of the tefillin. Divrei Rabbi. The Chum say eino tzarich. The Chum say no, there need not be a space. The Shavin shenosein chut o meshicha bein kol achos va'achos, and they both agree, and we're going to discuss what this means in just a moment, that you have to put, bless you, some type of string or some type of separation between each of the bottom. In other words, we'll both say, as we're going to see what this ultimately refers to, is that the bottom, the actual, not the bottom, because the bias refers to the entire thing, the sections of the shel rosh must be discernible one from the other. Vim ein charitzin nigar. We'll say here's what it leads to. If the grooves, if you'll notice again at the shel rosh, when you look at it from the outside, it has grooves. Those grooves ultimately show the separation between each of the sections of the shel rosh. The Gemara says, Im ein charitzin nigar. If the separation in the sections of the shel rosh is not recognizable, psulos, then the shel rosh is pasul. Which Shabbos says an incredible idea. So what it's saying over here is as follows. Even if the shel rosh is 4 separate sections on the inside, but those sections are not recognizable from the outside, the shel rosh is pasul. Ten Rabbanan. So the Gemara says as follows. Keitzad kosvan tefillah shel yad. How do you write? So we'll say that's tefillah shel rosh. So tefillah shel rosh, now we understand what? 4 different sections made out of what? One piece of leather, and the grooves which show the 4 different sections have to be discernible from the outside of the shel rosh. What about shel yad? Keitzad kosan shel yad, kosva al or echad. We'll say the halacha is For the tefillin shel yad, you write all of the parshios on one piece of parchment. So I said, because again, remember the tefillin shel yad, unlike the tefillin shel rosh, which is 4 separate sections, the tefillin shel yad is one section, one compartment. Therefore, all the parshios are written on one piece of parchment. Vimkasa ba'arba oros, v'nicha b'ayis echad. If you happen to write it on 4 different pieces of parchments, right? Then you put it all in one section. Ultimately, and you put it all within the bayis of the shel yad. Yotza. Ultimately, again, you are yotzei. V'tzarach ledabek. However, again, you would have to tie them all together. Right? In other words, so technically speaking, although you're supposed to write all 4 parshios of the shel yad on one piece of parchment, if you wrote it on 4 different pieces of parchment, technically you're yotzei, but they have to all be tied together. Shnei emar v'haya lecha la'os al yadcha. Pasuk says there shall be as an os on your hand or on your arm. Kashem sha'os echan mibachutz. The same way that ultimately, again, it is one os from the outside, which Rabosai means that the bias itself is one cohesive bias. There are no sections on the outside. Kach os echan mibifnim. So too it has to be one os on the inside as well. In other words, the parshios have to be together. So ideally, we want them all written on one cloth. But if you wrote them on different parchments, you would tie them all together. So the Gemara says as follows: If Rabbi Yehuda, these are always Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi Omer Eno Tzarich. Rabbi Yossi says ultimately again, this is not necessary. Rashi says ledabek. According to Rabbi Yossi, if you ended up writing them on 4 different pieces of parchment, it's fine, and you don't even have to tie them all together. Rabbi Yossi. Umodili Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda agrees with me as follows. It's actually an interesting case. Shem Eino Tefillin Shal Yad. Let's listen to this case. Let's say a person doesn't have Tefillin Shal Yad. What does he have? V'yesh lo shtei Tefillin Shal Rosh. An interesting case here. I don't have a Tefillin Shal Yad, but I happen to have 2 Tefillin Shal Rosh. Shetola or Shal Achas Mehen Umanicha. So let's listen to this. So what do? Essentially, you take one of the shel roshes and you transform it into a shel yad. How do you transform a shel rosh into a shel yad? You take a piece of leather and you tie it, or you really wrap it on the outside of the shel rosh. Effectively, what are you doing? You're transforming the 4 compartments of the shel rosh into what? Into one compartment, so to speak. Now, what's Rabbi Yossi's logic? Rabbi Yossi is the one who just said before that what? That halacha l'maisa, everyone agrees. How do you write the parashas of the shel yad? How do you write the parashas shel yad? 4 on one piece of parchment. What if you wrote 4 on 4 pieces of parchment? Chacham say you have to tie them together. Rabbi Yossi says no, you don't. So therefore, technically speaking, according to Rabbi Yossi, if you have a shel rosh that you have to transform into a shel yad, the only thing you really need to do is what? You have to get rid of the external grooves, because the shel yad has to look like one cohesive bias, as opposed to the shel rosh, which has to be 4 discernible sections. So how do you get rid of the 4 grooves? So Rabbi Yossi says very simple: take a piece of leather, and put a piece of hide, and put it on top of the shel rosh. What about the 4 parshios on the inside? Rabbi Yossi says what? That's okay. I mean, it's not lechatchila, but this is what you got. You make the best of it. Umanicho. I'm sorry. Shetola or achas mehen umanicha. So the Gemara says, "Moda hainu plutayu." What do you mean that? What do you mean that the Chum would agree about? So what do you mean Rabbi Yehuda would agree? This is the source of the machlokes. So Rabbi Yehuda holds that you can't have 4 separate parshios in the shel yad itself. So Rabbi Yehuda would agree. So Rabbi Yehuda. So what Rava says ultimately again from the words of Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda ultimately again retracted his original position, and Rabbi Yehuda holds that halacha l'maisa as much as lechatchila within the shel yad, the 4 sections should be written on one piece of parchment, and if they're written on 4 pieces of parchment, they should be tied together. Rabbi Yehuda came around to Rabbi Yossi's opinion and said, "B'diavad, even if they're not tied together, ultimately again it's kosher." That's why he would subscribe to this idea that if all you have is 2 shel roshes, you actually have the ability to transform a shel rosh into a shel yad. Very interesting. Ini, is that true? V'ashalach Rabbi Chananya mishmid Rabbi Yochanan tefillah shel yad osin osa shel rosh. So we'll say you could take a tefillah shel yad and you can make it into a shel rosh. V'shel rosh ein osa shel yad. But I will say you can't. So again, the Gemara quotes over here, Rabbi Chananya and Rabbi Yochanan. You could take a tefillin shel yad and you could transform it into a tefillin shel rosh. But you can't go ahead and take a shel rosh and transform it into a tefillin shel yad. Why? Lefi she'ein moridin mikdusha chamura likdusha kala. We'll say for a very interesting reason, because you can't go ahead and take something that has a higher level of sanctity and go ahead and transfer it for use for a lower level of sanctity. There's an assumption that the tefillin shorosh has a higher level of sanctity. Why? For the simple reason that it's on the head. Right? For the simple reason that it's on the rosh and not on the arm. So therefore you can't go ahead and take the tefillin shorosh and repurpose it as a tefillin shalyad, but you can take a tefillin shalyad and repurpose it ultimately again as a tefillin shorosh. So the Gemara says, "Lo kasher." Shavuos, you know what to do. We'll have to stop. I'm leaving you a little bit of a cliffhanger. We'll have to stop over here. Meretz Hashem. We will pick up with this sugya of repurposing the tefillin in Meretz Hashem tomorrow morning. Shkoyach.